All right, so we're diving into commercial leases today.
Oh, yeah.
Specifically, this thing called a holdover clause.
Interesting.
And, you're probably thinking, oh, another lease term I need to worry about, but these things, they can really sneak up on you.
Definitely.
So we're going to break down what they are, why they matter, and maybe even share a cautionary tale or two.
Sounds good. I'm ready.
Awesome. Well, to kick things off, let's just define what we're dealing with here.
Oh.
What exactly is a holdover clause?
Well, you know how in a typical residential lease, you might go month to month after the lease ends?
Yeah.
With a holdover clause, it's not so simple.
Right. Much more complex in the commercial world, right?
Exactly, because it's about your business, not just where you live.
So basically, it outlines what happens if you stay in the property past that lease expiration date.
And that's where the trouble can start.
Oh, I bet. Judging by the material you sent me, there are some serious gotchas lurking in these clauses.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like what kind of trouble are we talking about?
Well, for starters, there's usually a big rent penalty.
Okay, how big are we talking?
Think like a 50% increase.
Whoa. That's not just a little bump.
No, it can be significant.
So if your rent's $30 per square foot, suddenly it's $45.
Exactly, overnight.
Ouch. That would definitely throw a wrench in your budget.
Yeah, and it's not just the rent increase.
Oh, there's more.
Think about it. What if the landlord has a new tenant lined up
Right. Ready to move in.
and you're still there?
You're holding things up.
Exactly.
And landlords, especially with a prime location, they're not going to be happy about that.
Not at all.
Especially if it's like a big name, like
Yeah, like a McDonald's or something.
oh yeah, those guys don't mess around.
Nope. You could be liable for legal fees, construction delays.
Wow. So this little clause has some serious teeth.
It does. It protects the landlord's interests, too.
Right, because for them, it's like they've made this promise
Exactly.
to this new tenant, and now they can't deliver.
It's an insurance policy for them, really.
It's like reserving a table at a busy restaurant.
I like that analogy.
You've promised that table to someone else.
And you're still sitting there.
Exactly, so it throws everything off.
Right. So clarity is crucial.
Okay, so we've seen the scary side,
The downsides.
but let's talk solutions. What can a tenant do to protect themselves?
Don't just skim that clause.
Read it carefully.
Really understand those penalties, how damages are calculated.
So knowledge is power here.
Absolutely. And don't wait till the last minute.
Start talking to your landlord early.
Yeah, like 4 to 6 months before the lease ends.
Okay, good advice.
Gives everyone time to plan, explore options.
And I'm guessing having a good lawyer on your side wouldn't hurt?
A lawyer or a real estate professional, someone who knows the ropes.
Because let's be real, these leases can be complicated.
They are full of legalese.
All right, so we've covered the basics, the risks, and some strategies.
Yeah, we've got a good foundation.
But I have a feeling it gets even more interesting when we factor in a hot real estate market.
Oh, absolutely.
Like the one you're in.
Right.
Yeah, things get a lot more intense when demand is high.
Okay, well, let's dive into that next.
That's good to me.
Okay, so we're talking hot markets, high demand for space.
Yeah, like Dallas-Fort Worth, you mentioned it.
Right, everyone wants a piece of the action.
Time is money in that kind of environment.
And any delay can really throw things off.
Absolutely. So those holdover clauses, they become even more critical.
Because it's not just about one tenant overstaying, it's about the whole chain reaction.
Right. Think about it.
Okay, I'm thinking
You've got this prime location.
Yeah.
You've promised it to a big name retailer.
like
A McDonald's, let's say.
oh yeah, I can see it now.
Construction's all lined up. Everyone's excited.
And then bam,
The previous tenant doesn't move out.
because of a holdover situation.
Exactly. And now everything's delayed.
And we all know construction delays equal big bucks.
You got it. And those big brands, they're not going to be happy.
No way.
You could face lawsuits, breach of contract.
Damage to your reputation. It's a nightmare scenario for a landlord.
So it's not just about the rent increase anymore.
No, it's about the domino effect.
Those ripple effects can be huge.
And for tenants, the pressure is on too. Not only are you facing those penalties,
Right? Those hefty penalties.
but you're also scrambling to find a new place.
Get everything moved, permits, renovations.
It's a race against time.
And speaking of, those real-life examples you said.
Oh, yeah.
Those holdover situations gone wrong.
They really illustrate the point.
I think those would be helpful for our listener.
Let's take a look.
Okay, hit me with one.
So there's this tenant in a retail strip.
Mm-hmm.
They overstayed their lease by just a couple of months.
Okay, not too bad, you'd think.
They thought it was no big deal.
Right.
But the landlord had already promised that space to a new tenant.
Who was ready to start construction?
You know what's coming next.
Oh, yeah. This isn't going to be pretty.
Missed deadlines, lawsuits, the whole 9 yards.
And who pays for all that?
The tenant who overstayed.
Ouch. Talk about an expensive mistake.
A classic case of underestimating the holdover clause.
You gotta know what you're signing.
Every detail matters,
Right. Time is money.
especially in real estate.
Okay, what about the other example?
This one shows what happens when the landlord doesn't have a strong holdover clause.
Oh, so they were stuck with the overstaying tenant.
Yep, and couldn't really enforce those penalties.
So they lost the new tenant, A and D, couldn't recoup their losses.
Double whammy.
It's like a cautionary tale for both sides.
Exactly. Knowledge is your best defense.
Whether you're a tenant or a landlord,
Understand those lease terms. Don't just assume things will work out.
and if in doubt, get professional advice.
Always a good idea.
Okay, so these holdover clauses, they're kind of a big deal,
No doubt about it.
especially in these competitive markets.
Absolutely. The stakes are higher.
So it's about understanding the risks and taking steps to protect yourself?
And knowing that every situation is different.
Right, there's no one-size-fits-all solution.
You got to be informed and proactive.
It's wild how much impact this one little clause can have, especially in a market like yours where every square foot is valuable. We've been focusing on retail spaces, but I was curious, do holdover clauses play out differently in other commercial properties?
Oh, for sure. Office buildings, warehouses, they all have their own quirks.
So let's say I'm not running a store, but an office-based business. What should I be thinking about?
Well, the good news is you don't have that same urgency around, foot traffic.
Right, not like a restaurant where every closed day means lost sales.
Exactly. It's more about having that functional workspace for your team.
Okay, so less about that immediate revenue stream.
But that doesn't mean the holdover clause is any less important.
Oh, I bet. So what kind of issues could pop up in an office setting?
Imagine the new tenant has planned a major renovation,
Okay, yeah.
or their move-in date is tied to some big business operation.
Any delay would throw a wrench in things.
Absolutely. So even though it's not about daily sales, those delays still have a big impact.
And the types of damages claimed might be different too, right?
Oh yeah, you might see claims for lost productivity,
Interesting. Okay.
delays in setting up IT infrastructure,
Makes sense.
even reputational damage if a company can't move into their headquarters on time.
It's fascinating how those nuances change the whole game, even though the basic concept of the holdover clause is the same.
Yeah, it's all about understanding the context.
So one size doesn't fit all when it comes to these clauses.
Absolutely not. Retail, office, industrial, you got to look at each situation individually.
So to sum things up for our listeners today, holdover clauses are a key part of NUI commercial lease.
Definitely, they set those clear expectations for both sides.
And outline what happens if you stay past that lease expiration date,
And as we talked about, those clauses become even more important in those hot markets.
where time is money and delays can really snowball.
It's all about being informed and staying ahead of the game.
Great advice.
Uh.
Well, thanks so much for sharing your expertise with us today.
My pleasure. Hopefully this deep dive gave everyone some valuable takeaways.
And to you, our listener, remember, knowledge is power, especially when it comes to those commercial leases. Keep asking those questions, keep learning, and don't be afraid to reach out to the experts when you need them. Until next time, happy leasing!